Welcome to the Reconnection Club podcast, the show that helps parents heal troubled relationships with their adult sons and daughters. I'm your host, psychotherapist Tina Gilbertson. Each week, I'll offer you compassion, clarity, and personal development tips designed to help you reconnect, not only with your child, but with yourself. Now let's get started. In part one of this two-part episode, I suggested there are factors other than abuse that can lead to estrangement as an act of self-protection. The emotional safety I mentioned in episode 225 is something you can study and cultivate without your child's involvement while you're estranged, so that if a lack of emotional safety is a factor for them, you will have started to address it before your next contact. In addition to not knowing how to create or prioritize emotional safety, another invisible obstacle that parents may trip over repeatedly to their own detriment is personal boundaries. You've heard this one before. All of us have a certain comfort zone around, for example, our privacy, our time, our minor children, our values, our bodies, our belongings, and our personal space. Different people will draw those boundary lines differently, and of course, that's allowed. I believe we all have not only the right, but the responsibility to figure out our own boundaries and protect our own limits appropriately. And as I said in episode 119, that takes work. I strongly encourage you to review episode 119 if you know or suspect boundaries to be an issue. That's at reconnectionclub.com/119. To be fair, it is your adult child's job to respect their own boundaries by managing them well within relationships. But if they have trouble with boundaries, they may choose cutoff instead, or they may implement cutoff as an explicit consequence of repeated violations of a boundary they believe they have clearly stated in the past. You can do your best to find out where the lines are and respect them. But if adult children have trouble articulating or defending their boundaries at close range, for example, if they insist that you should just know what they need or how they feel, there's only so much you can do to bridge the gap. One practical thing you can do is to give some attention to your own growing edges with boundaries. If the word itself fills you with fear and loathing, your personal boundaries might need your compassionate attention, because it will be extremely hard to honor or even acknowledge your child's boundaries if your own are languishing. In addition to boundary violations, there's one more invisible factor I want to mention that may contribute to a self-protective estrangement. It's when one child in the family, often without the parent's knowledge, continually feels less than, because they're comparing themselves with other family members and feeling as though they're not measuring up. This might be for a number of different reasons. They may have a learning disability or medical condition, or they're more sensitive, or they hold different values than the rest of the family. They might have grown up with a sibling who was a star in some way, and they felt constantly in the shadow of that sibling. Maybe they were the firstborn or only child of very high-achieving parents who unconsciously set a standard of excellence with their achievement, even if there was no explicit pressure. Those types of internal comparisons may be inevitable. Nobody has to do anything wrong for some people to feel less than in their own families. It is extremely unfortunate, but not necessarily caused by any unkindness, let alone poor parenting. Notice that in all the examples I gave, where children compare themselves unfavorably, there are elements beyond anyone's control: a disability, a certain temperament, the characteristics of a sibling, the bar that is automatically set by the example of high achievement. All of those, per se, are facts of life, rather than acts of disservice. The comparisons children make that leave them feeling bad about themselves, or even unwelcome, are very often invisible on the outside, and so they can exist and grow unchallenged over years without parents being able to address them. The experience of comparing yourself like that is so uncomfortable to live with that when the freedom of adulthood finally beckons, some adult children take the opportunity to get away from what they see as the source of their pain, which, sadly for everyone involved, lies within the family. Please remember this: no one chooses to feel different or less than. And it's nearly impossible to talk someone out of a feeling, especially one that's based on a deep belief. So, what can you do about this as a parent? Telling them you love them as much as their siblings, or in spite of whatever they're concerned about, isn't likely to work, because unfortunately, love isn't always enough to change beliefs. So first, remind yourself that your child's experience is not a choice and not an indictment of you. Accept what they say about their feelings and impressions of their childhood and your family. Remember, everyone is entitled to their emotions and their impressions of their own experience. You don't have to share it, but it is the only truth they know. And just realizing that you hear and accept their experience as their truth can give a boost to their well-being and their sense of connection to you. For more on that point, listen to episode 193, The Truth of the Matter, at reconnectionclub.com/193. Second, be ready to use authentic validation the next time you have contact. Validation soothes, not by changing how someone feels, but by acknowledging and accepting their present feelings. Review the validation episodes, starting at reconnectionclub.com/198, for help developing this incredibly useful skill. Third, if you don't currently have contact, another good use of your time might be to explore your vulnerability. Have there been times when you've compared yourself to others and felt worse? How did you cope with that? The more you can embrace your own knowledge of feeling less than in various situations, the more understanding you'll have for both yourself and your child. I hope it's become a little bit more clear in these 2 episodes why adult children might use cutoff to protect themselves from feeling emotionally unsafe, from repeated boundary violations, from feeling less than because of unfavorable comparisons. And another factor I did not mention is enmeshment, or too much closeness, which is the subject of episodes 149 and 150, From Enmeshment to Estrangement, starting at reconnectionclub.com/149. If your understanding of estrangement as self-protection has deepened even a tiny bit, you're closer to reconnecting. As we grow in understanding, our compassion also grows. We start to wear it like a suit. Everyone can see our growing compassion from the outside. There's no need to make demonstrations or prove anything. In part, that's how the personal work you do translates to your relationship with your child or children. It's automatic, which is why spending time on personal healing, learning, and growth is the same as spending time working on the parent-child relationship. I wrote about the crucial impact of personal healing on your relationship with your adult child or children in an article that I'll link to in the show notes. Until next time, remember that you are a loving, lovable, and still growing human being. So please take good care of yourself. Bye for now. If you've enjoyed this episode of the Reconnection Club podcast, I invite you to check out reconnectionclub.com. The Reconnection Club is for parents at any stage of estrangement from their adult, child, or children. So whether you've just realized there's trouble between you, you've been living with estrangement for years, or you're newly reconciled but still walking on eggshells, the Reconnection Club is your essential resource for information, support, and continued personal growth. With our courses and workshops, expert interviews, monthly Q&A calls, and a friendly, active community, the Reconnection Club is a wonderful place to be for anyone suffering the pain of estrangement from an adult, child, or children. So check it out at reconnectionclub.com.